So, does this movie stand the test of time?
I'd have to say it does. I mean, at least for me, it does. It's one of those that you can just sit down and watch anytime and still enjoy it. And like we had said in this, is just picking up on other things that you missed whenever you were a kid or whatever, and then just realizing, kind of looking back now, what all was out there. I've yet to actually show this to my boys, so I think it'll be interesting to actually get them to sit down and see if they'll actually watch it. I have a feeling not, just because it doesn't have a whole lot of explosions and all that kind of stuff. But you never know, I guess.
Hey, a guy catches on fire and gets squished by
Well,
a trash compactor. I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yes, I like I said before, I think there's maybe one or two scenes, but I don't care. I think this movie holds up. I think, like I said, it's evergreen. I think no matter what, in the far flung future, maybe it won't hold up then, but I probably will disagree with whoever says that. I love this movie. This is such a great movie.
like I said, certain devices and stuff like that earlier, and I agree with you, Richard, as far as like you're saying the hairstyle and the clothing and stuff like that. However, because I think technically I'm considered a millennial, and millennials are now like becoming fathers and mothers and stuff like that who have enjoyed this product as they've grown up, and they're going to share this with their kids. I could see this absolutely standing the test of time just because of having that like support as far as like the way timing is worked out and stuff like that. On top of, like I
Hmm.
said, I don't think there's enough there to really make a barrier and be like, oh my god, I can't believe they had this. Oh my god, I can't believe they had that. Like, or how did y'all not do without this? Or how did y'all not do without that? Or whatever else the case is. Like, so yeah, I think the combination of the lack of technology in this film, the lack of CGI, honestly, in this film, and the fact of the support from the people that grew up with it, yeah, I think this movie's gonna just keep on going for a bit. I made a comparison earlier of it being kind of like, to me, the same level as Ghostbusters. Would
Hmm.
y'all? How would y'all go as far as what would y'all say as far as that?
Yeah, that's hard for me. So, like, if we want to talk about movies that like I love from my childhood, yes, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I don't care what anyone says. Like, a lot of people say Ghostbusters 2 is not as great as Ghostbusters 1. I like Ghostbusters 2. Deal with it. Like, um,
Yes.
the all three Back to the Future, I love those. The Indiana Jones, the original Star Wars. Like, look, I'm your stereotypical, like, whatever, mid-30s fat nerd. Like, I love those movies. It is up there with those. I will say that. Where I rank them, I don't know, and I would say honestly, it's up there in my at least top five because, like I said, this movie shaped my like childhood, like in ways that I really don't even want to talk about on the podcast. And it's not like it's nothing weird, but it's just personal stories that like I just don't want to talk about.
you, you and April had a thing going there for a
No,
while.
no, definitely no, not April.
Apparently, when I was younger, I had a teacher that looked a lot like Judith Hogue, who played April O'Neil. And apparently, my mom was like, "Oh yeah, you had a crush on her," and I was like, "Well, I was in like kindergarten or first grade, so oh well, I don't know what to tell you." You brought up a good point though that I wanted to jump in real quick, and I never thought about it like that. Like Star Wars being such a big deal, the original Michael Keaton Batman, Ghostbusters, Back to
Oh
the
yeah,
Future, Indiana Jones, like all these
yeah.
movies are like
Yeah,
they're pivotal movies in that time period in those years,
Hmm.
and just more movies that have stood the test of time. Now thinking about it, I'm like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been overlooked dramatically. Like it's never put with the. And honestly, I would rather watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than Back to the Future. And y'all can throw tomatoes or whatever you want at me, but like, But yeah, like I would much rather watch the Turtles than I would Back to the Future. Now, I cannot say the same for Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones, and I can't say the same maybe Ghostbusters. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters are like right there neck and neck with me. And honestly, right now where I'm at, I would honestly probably rather watch TMNT than Star Wars, just because I've watched so much Star Wars lately that like I just feel like I've had too much. But yeah, that just I don't know. I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, like on all that. That it's definitely one of those iconic movies that is, and I'd have to agree with you on as well, Michael, that it's overlooked more than the others, like the Indiana Jones and Star Wars and stuff like that. But it's such a great movie, and it honestly makes me wonder. Like we have those Star Wars, the Indiana Jones, this Ghostbusters. Even though I haven't seen Ghostbusters, but it was all these different ones that are.
The fuck did you just say?
Yeah, you can't just drop a bombshell and just keep moving on. Jesus,
this motherfucker right here. Haven't watched it. Better wash your fucking mouth out. Are you kidding me right now?
No, I'm not kidding you. And
that
I was
shit is on my fucking Plex, and you better go watch it after you get off this podcast.
But I did come like think about that with all these different ones that are such good movies. Do you think that the ones that are coming out now will actually be able to have such a staple in people's lives, like Indiana Jones and TMNT and Star Wars and the original Star Wars and all that?
That's a fucking great question. Like, and I mean, back then, I don't think people would have. I don't think people would have sit there and been like, "Oh yeah, Indiana Jones is going to stand the test of time. Indiana Jones is going to be. It's just going to be this thriller of whatever." And I wonder if that's where like it's like the kids of that time, their parents took them to go see that. And their parents bought them the VHS of that. By the way, that's tapes for all you little people out there. That was a thing before. It was after Betamax, and it was before DVDs. And what was the other one? There was another one before that.
Laserdisc.
Yes,
and then Blu-ray. Well, it went beta, VHS, Laserdisc, DVDs, Blu-ray, and then now everything's just streaming.
Well, they had that. They also had the competition. Almost seemed like it was either Blu-ray or the HD DVDs.
Yeah. That's funny, man. That's a. I think it's honestly whatever we kind of decide is like nerds in this instance. Like, what are we going to put our kids in? Like, what are we going to sit there and have our kids go and watch and stuff like that? I remember watching Batman with my pop. I remember watching Ghostbusters with my pop, and Indiana Jones with, my folks and stuff like that. Like, what am I sitting down watching with my kids? You know what I mean? On a constant basis. Like right now, I think, my son loves Ghostbusters. So like, that'll be something. And he loves Afterlife as well. Like that's kind of his. And so I wonder, like, will Afterlife be his Ghostbusters? Like, is that going to be his thing? Honestly, I think if we get a Miles Morales, and as far as movies go, and it's done right, that I think will stand the test of time, just because of like the audience that will connect with. But that's not here though. So like, what now would be that? I don't know. That's a good question, man. That's a really good question.